was laughing, loud, too loud. I'd heard that laugh before, years ago, when it was real. Now it was performance. Then it happened. The bartender asked how long we'd been together. I smiled, but before I could answer, she cut in. Too long, she said with a grin. He's just convenient. Not exciting. The table laughed. I didn't. Her words hit with surgical precision. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Quiet enough to be just a joke. But I saw her eyes. She meant it. I didn't say a word. Didn't blink. Just let the silence settle. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. Something snapped, but not in anger. In awareness. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her placeholder. The rest of the night, she pretended nothing happened. She drank, danced, took selfies with her friends. I stayed quiet, watching from a distance, though I was right next to her. And that's when I realized. She thought she had me locked in. Predictable. Safe. Boring. She was wrong. That was my hook moment. The realization that love had been replaced by convenience. That I'd become invisible in plain sight. The next morning, she didn't even mention it. Just scrolled her phone while sipping her oat milk latte, humming to herself like she hadn't gutted me the night before. And I didn't confront her. No raised voice. No argument. Just silence. But the shift had started. She didn't see it yet. I did. Later that day, I got a call from my best friend, Marcus. He was at the same bar the night before, sitting a few tables over. His voice was tight. Man, you good? That wasn't okay. I said I was fine. I lied. Because something deeper than hurt was brewing, clarity. This wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. The offhand insults. The constant phone checking during dinner. The way she dressed up for Instagram but wore hoodies and indifference around me. She'd stopped asking how my day was months ago. Now I realized. I'd stopped answering long before that. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, tracing every moment that had led us here. And I knew. This was the beginning of the end. She thought I'd cling harder. That I'd beg for attention. But I wasn't going to fight. I was going to vanish. Not disappear. Dismantle. Quietly. Strategically. She wanted exciting. She was about to learn what unpredictable looked like. Next time she looked over, I wouldn't be there. Not in body. Not in soul. This was the start of her freedom. She just didn't know what it cost. The unraveling didn't start with a confession. It started with a look. A week after the rooftop incident, I bumped into her coworker at a gas station. We weren't close. Barely acquaintances. But he hesitated when he saw me. Just long enough for me to notice. He smiled, nodded, and then said something that didn't make sense at first. She talks about you a lot, he said, but his tone didn't match the words. It was pity, not admiration. I froze. She said you're really supportive. That you give her space. He added, then got into his car and drove off. Supportive. Space. That's what she'd been calling it. What I thought was patience, she was branding as distance. A flaw. A joke, even. That night, I sat with those words longer than I should have. Something about the way he said it. It didn't feel casual. I started paying attention. I didn't check her phone. I didn't dig through her stuff. I didn't need to. Her behavior was the evidence. Every time her screen lit up, she angled it away from me. Her smiles were no longer spontaneous. They were rehearsed. Curated. For someone else. When I asked how her day was, she gave answers that were too short or too perfect. I'm tired. Long day, she'd say with a yawn. But her makeup was fresh. Her perfume still sharp at 9 p.m. Her phone buzzed constantly, and she never let it ring aloud anymore. I noticed the gaps. She stayed late at work. Twice in the same week. Claimed deadlines. Stress. But came home glowing. Energized. Like she had just been seen. And I saw her once. Outside her office. I hadn't planned it. I had a meeting across the street. Coincidence. She didn't see me. But I saw her. Standing too close to some guy in a charcoal blazer. Laughing like she used to laugh with me. Head tilted. Hand brushing his arm casually. Like it meant nothing. But I knew better. She wasn't cheating yet. Not physically. Not that I could prove. But emotionally. She was already gone. That night, I came home, took off my shoes, and just sat in the dark. No TV. No music. Just the hum of the fridge and the weight in my chest. She came in late again. Kissed my cheek like it was routine. Like nothing was wrong. And I just watched her. That was when I made the decision. I wouldn't confront her. She wanted space. She'd get silence. She wanted independence. She could build her own life, without my invisible support holding it up. She wanted freedom? She'd feel what it really costs. No arguments. No begging. No scenes. Just the slow, calculated withdrawal of everything she never appreciated. From that point forward, I wasn't her husband. I was her shadow. And soon, I wouldn't even be that. You don't need a private investigator when someone's slipping. They do the work for you. I started with the simple things. Patterns. Habits. Timelines. The more I paid attention, the more I realized how easily she gave herself away. Not in big dramatic moves, but in small, careless ones. A lie doesn't always show up as a contradiction. Sometimes it shows up as too much consistency. Too polished. Too rehearsed. She said she was working late. Always on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Always. No variation. But real work isn't predictable. Deadlines shift. Emergencies pop up. No one has the exact same late nights week after week. Then there were her texts. She'd smile at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, then immediately flip the screen over when I entered the room. Once, I saw her typing quickly, then deleting. Not once. 3 times in a row. Like she couldn't decide what tone to take with whoever she was messaging. And then came the financial slip-up. I noticed a Lyft charge on our shared bank account at 11:52 p.m. Pick up near her office, drop off somewhere residential. Not her friend's place. Not her sister's. A new name on the statement. Matthew. No last name. Just Matthew's apartment. I didn't confront her. Instead, I checked our cloud backup. She had forgotten the calendar sync was still live on our shared email. I opened it. There, color-coded and carefully hidden under Personal, was an event marked for that same night. Quiet time. No calls. The arrogance. She wasn't even hiding it from the world, just from me. That night, she walked in like everything was fine. Smiled. Said she'd had a long day. I nodded. Asked if she wanted anything from the kitchen. She declined. I poured her a glass of water anyway. Set it on the table. Watched her drink it with hands that still wore our wedding ring. Then I excused myself. Said I had some work to finish. Went to the office. And began. I compiled screenshots. Calendar entries. Ride receipts. Card charges. Time-stamped inconsistencies. Not because I planned to use them immediately. Not for confrontation. But for strategy. Because the next stage wouldn't be about her anymore. It would be about me. My recovery. My protection. I started making copies of documents. Banking, titles, passwords. Changed the security questions on all joint accounts. Quietly removed her as an authorized user on anything important. Rerouted our mail. Ordered a new key fob for the car. One with remote disabling. And she didn't notice a thing. Because she thought I was still asleep at the wheel. But I was wide awake. Watching every move. Preparing my exit. Not with noise, but with precision. The storm wasn't coming. It had already started. She just hadn't felt the first drop. I didn't slam the door. I didn't pack a suitcase. I simply disappeared. Not physically. Not yet. But piece by piece, I began removing myself from her reality. And at first, she didn't even notice. I turned off read receipts. Set my phone to do not disturb during her usual text hours. Started sleeping on the far edge of the bed, facing away. I switched my morning routine. Left earlier, came home later. No explanation. No questions. Just silence. The first time she asked where I was going, I said, out. No more details. She blinked, caught off guard, but said nothing. That night, I stayed at a hotel. Not because I had to. Because I could. It was quiet. Clean. The kind of quiet that didn't feel like punishment. I slept like a man without weight on his chest for the first time in months. The next day, I returned home just before sunrise. Showered. Changed. Drank coffee in the kitchen like nothing happened. She came down the stairs, surprised to see me awake. You left early, she said. I looked up from my cup and nodded. She waited. I didn't offer more. The next weekend, I forgot. We had dinner plans. She texted twice. No response. When I walked through the door at midnight, she was sitting on the couch in her robe, arms crossed, phone clutched in her hand. She asked where I'd been. I smiled. Needed space. She didn't know what to do with that. Space had always been her language. Now it was mine. That Monday, I turned off her access to our shared calendar. On Tuesday, I stopped checking in. On Wednesday, I muted her notifications. I wasn't angry. I was subtracting. One breadcrumb at a time. She had no idea how far gone I already was. She thought she still had control, still had options. But every quiet moment was part of the design. I'd started sleeping with a separate bank account. I'd moved emergency funds, adjusted beneficiaries. The car she drove? It was leased under my name. The card she used for groceries? Revoked and replaced. And she still thought I was just moody. On Thursday, she made dinner. Her favorite dish. Lit candles. I walked in, smelled it, nodded politely, and took my plate to the other room. Ate in silence. Alone. That was when the silence became loud. She didn't say anything that night. Just cleaned the dishes with stiff movements and disappeared into the bedroom early. Good. The distance had finally started to ache. But not for me. I was done aching. She had made her choices. Now, she was living in the echo of them. And I was already gone. She thought she had two worlds. Two lives. Me, the stable one. The fallback. And him, her spark. Her secret. The thrill. But stability has weight. And secrets have consequences. While she was busy juggling feelings, I was tracing connections. I didn't need to hack anything. People give away more than they realize. I found him, Matthew. An IT consultant with charm and just enough ambition to seem legitimate. But not enough to actually be dangerous. That made it easy. I created a burner email, posed as a recruiter, and sent him a fake job lead, complete with a PDF attachment laced with a silent tracking link. Nothing malicious. Just visibility. Within 2 hours, he opened it. I had his IP, his location, his device ID. 3 days later, I knew more about him than she probably did. Debt. A terminated contract from a past employer. A harassment claim, settled quietly. Not a felony, not scandalous, but enough smoke to make the right people curious. I compiled a report. No signature. No trace back. I sent it to the HR department at his current job. Attached with a single sentence. Thought you should know who you hired. And then I waited. 1 week later, he was suspended for internal review. Her Thursday nights suddenly ended earlier. Her mood? Different. Tighter. She snapped at little things. Her laughter? Forced. Good. I didn't touch him. I didn't threaten him. I just made sure the world saw him clearly. Not with anger. With accuracy. She never suspected it came from me. Why would she? She thought I was too passive. Too numb. Too tired to care. And in a way I was. But not about her happiness. About mine. Her carefully curated double life was unraveling, and she didn't even see the threads slipping through her fingers. One night, she sat across from me at dinner and said, "I feel like we've been off lately." I looked her in the eye, smiled, and said, "Do we?" She blinked. Said nothing. Because I wasn't giving her conflict. I was giving her clarity. That same week, I updated the settings on our home security system. New password. Face ID, mine only. She came home one night, and the door didn't open for her. I watched her from the upstairs window as she fumbled with her phone, confused, then rang the bell. I let her in. Didn't explain. Just said the app had updated. Must have reset the settings. She nodded slowly. That was her first taste of exclusion, and it wouldn't be her last. Her world was narrowing. Not with a bang, but with quiet clicks and closed doors. She had chosen her chaos. Now she was watching the calm leave the room, and she still thought she could fix it. The first real crack didn't come from me. It came from the people she thought would always be in her corner. Her sister, Laura, called one night while I was out. I watched the call light up her screen from across the room. She didn't answer. Then the texts started coming. At first, I didn't read them. I didn't need to. I could see it on her face. Confusion. Then anger. Then that subtle twitch of panic when the truth starts seeping through denial. Turns out, Laura had run into Matthew, her spark, at a cafe. Alone. Jobless. Drained. He'd mentioned something about a crazy misunderstanding at work, and let it slip that things between him and my wife had cooled off. Laura asked questions. And for once, my wife didn't have answers. By the time I walked through the door that evening, she was pacing the kitchen, wine glass in hand, scrolling through her phone like she was looking for a version of events she could still believe. I walked past her without a word, opened the fridge, grabbed a drink, and sat at the dining table like nothing was wrong. Because for me, there wasn't. She mumbled something about people gossiping and misunderstandings. I didn't respond, just nodded once and scrolled through my emails like I hadn't heard her. The silence did more damage than any accusation. The next blow came at her job. I never touched it, never interfered. But whispers have a way of traveling when someone starts slipping. She'd taken too many long lunches, too many late arrivals. Her team had questions. And when people start asking questions, managers start taking notes. Her promotion, The one she'd been bragging about for months? Gone. Suddenly, she was reevaluating her role. Translation, being managed out. I watched her spiral in slow motion. She started dressing up for work again, trying harder, laughing louder at things that weren't funny, posting motivational quotes on Instagram, as if pretending she was centered would bring her balance. But the likes were dropping. The comments too. Because by then, people had started to talk. Laura had told their parents. Her friend Melissa had stopped coming around. Even her book club, that wine-filled circle of curated sisterhood, had turned quiet. Canceled meetings. Missed replies. And I didn't say a word to anyone. All I did was leave a trail of truth where people could find it. A little clarity here. A casual comment there. Just enough to expose the pattern without ever getting my hands dirty. I was still present. Still polite. Still unbothered. But the difference now? I wasn't shielding her anymore. She was facing her reflection in the eyes of others. And the image wasn't flattering. She wanted to manage 2 lives. Now she was struggling to manage one. It's not the yelling that breaks a person. It's the silence. Especially when the silence used to be filled with warmth. By now, the house felt different. She walked through it like a guest, uncertain of what doors she was still allowed to open. We spoke less. Ate separately. Slept with our backs turned, if we slept in the same room at all. She started lingering near me, standing in the doorway while I worked, making small talk about errands, TV shows, weather, like that could rewind time. I didn't stop her, but I didn't respond, either. Because she needed to feel the vacuum, the absence of the version of me she'd taken for granted. One night, she reached out, literally, put her hand on my shoulder as I sat on the couch. No words, just a silent plea. I didn't shrug it off. I didn't touch her back. I just sat still. And after a few seconds, she withdrew. That was the moment it shifted. She didn't say it aloud, but I saw it on her face. She knew. I was no longer hers. Not emotionally. Not mentally. Not strategically. She tried one last move. The next morning, she made coffee for both of us. Mine, black, just the way I liked it. Placed it carefully next to my laptop before I even sat down. Smiled hopeful. I picked it up, took a sip, nodded once, and said, thanks. No eye contact. No warmth. Just acknowledgement. She stood there for a few seconds like she wanted to say more. But nothing came out. She turned and walked away, slower than usual. She was used to tension leading to explosion. Tears. Fights. Emotional theatrics. But I had given her nothing. And that nothing was finally echoing. Her calls became longer. Later. Whispered in other rooms. Her texts more frequent. The desperation leaking through each carefully worded message she sent. To friends, to family. She thought she still had time. But my mind was already on the next phase. I had booked a consultation with a moving company. Nothing scheduled yet. Just information. But the quote sat in my inbox, ready. I visited a new apartment under the guise of a business meeting. Quiet building. No shared walls. Digital access. I had started moving my clothes out slowly, one suit at a time. My favorite watch. My hard drives. My personal files. She didn't notice. Or maybe she was too afraid to ask. Because when someone stops fighting you, you start wondering how much you've already lost. And she had lost more than she realized. The warmth. The loyalty. The shield I used to be. Now she lived inside the ruins of what she'd burned, expecting it to bloom again. But ashes don't grow. They bury. Eventually, she couldn't take the silence anymore. It was a Sunday morning. Clear skies. Quiet house. I was folding clothes methodically, piece by piece, in the bedroom. She stood by the door for a while, watching. Then she stepped in. She didn't ask permission. She just started talking. Not an apology. Not a confession. Just questions. Disguised as concern. Masked as curiosity. Are you okay? She asked. I nodded once. Kept folding. She tried again. We used to talk more. Still, I said nothing. Because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't be a lie, or a repeat of what she'd already ignored. Then came the real question. Do you still love me? I stopped folding. Not because the question hurt, but because it didn't. I looked at her. Not with anger. Not with affection. Just stillness. I don't know what you want me to say, I replied. She blinked, like the words were foreign. I want to understand, she said. That was the moment I understood she didn't. She wasn't here to own her actions. She was here to fix the optics. To make the discomfort go away. She wanted to stitch a clean narrative over the mess. But there was no neat ending to offer. No comeback story. Only the truth. I think we should talk, she said again. I stared at her for a moment, then turned back to the laundry. We are talking. She didn't respond right away. And for the first time, I saw her reach, not for control, not for dominance, but for something real. You're not even mad, she whispered. That scares me. I didn't flinch. You're not worth the anger anymore. She stepped back. That landed. She realized I wasn't silent because I was hurt. I was silent because I was finished. She tried to close the space again. Mention memories. Good times. Trips we took. The playlist I made her on our second anniversary. I listened, but I didn't join. Because she wasn't trying to reconnect. She was trying to rewind. Pretend none of it happened. But I remembered everything. The rooftop insult. The text she hid. The nights she came home late with a smile meant for someone else. I had lived through every moment. Quietly. Strategically. And now? Now she was standing in the wreckage of a bridge she had burned. I didn't know her closure. I owed myself freedom. I picked up the folded clothes, walked past her, and placed them in a suitcase sitting silently by the door. Not packed in panic. Packed in peace. She stood there, eyes wide. What are you doing? I didn't answer. She had asked too late. By the time I walked out the door, she still hadn't moved. She stood frozen in the hallway, like her brain hadn't caught up with what was happening. Like she thought there was still a chance to pause, to rewind, to soften it with a memory or a tear. But I didn't give her anything. Not a look back. Not a goodbye. Just the quiet click of the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I didn't want her to remember the sound. I wanted her to remember the silence. Within 24 hours, I had moved into the new apartment. Sparse. Clean. No ghosts in the corners. No perfume on the sheets that didn't belong to peace. I didn't block her. I didn't delete her number. I just never used it again. She called. Left voicemails, at first trying to sound composed, then frantic. Texted things like, "Can we talk?" Followed by, "You're being cruel." Then circled back to, "Please, I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Because this wasn't a game. It was a line. And she had already crossed it. A few mutual friends reached out. Quietly. Hesitantly. Said she wasn't doing well. That she wasn't herself. I thanked them. Told them I was fine. And I was. She, however, was unraveling. She lost weight. Stopped showing up to things. Her usual filters on social media got darker, colder. The captions, once full of sarcasm and passive jokes, were now cryptic. Confused. One post read, "Funny how silence can be louder than screaming." Another, "When someone walks away without a word, it's because they've already said everything in their mind." I didn't like the post. Didn't comment. But I saw it. And so did everyone else. She tried rebuilding, socially at first. Organized a dinner. Few people showed. Posted a selfie afterward. Bright smile, glass of wine, captioned, "New beginnings." But no one believed it. Because the glow was gone. That chaos she used to flirt with, it had turned on her. No distractions. No Matthew. No safety net. She tried calling my sister, an act of desperation. Said she wanted to clear the air. My sister told her calmly, "He doesn't talk about you anymore." And that sentence cut deeper than any insult ever could. She wasn't the villain. She wasn't the victim. She was the echo. And echoes only exist where something used to live. People stopped asking me about her. Not because they forgot, but because they knew there was nothing left to say. Her collapse wasn't a scene. It was a slow, public emptiness. The kind people whisper about, but never interrupt. I saw her one last time. Not by plan, just circumstance. A charity event. Public, polished, the kind of space she used to thrive in. She walked in wearing that confident smile, the one that used to hypnotize rooms. But now it flickered. Unstable. Fragile behind the gloss. She didn't see me at first. I was standing near the back, alone, drink in hand. Not hiding. Not showing off. Just observing. She looked thinner. Not in the way people compliment. In the way that speaks of sleep lost and appetite gone. The way pain sits on your bones when the noise around you dies down. Then she saw me. For a split second, she froze. Not in fear. In recognition. Like her brain couldn't reconcile the version of me standing there. Unbothered, composed, fully alive. She took one step toward me. I didn't move. That was the last power I had left. Stillness. She hesitated. Then turned. Pretended she hadn't seen me. But I knew she felt it. That invisible wall. That absolute absence. I stayed for another 10 minutes. Then I left. Quiet. Calm. No scene. She'd wanted passion. chaos, noise. I gave her none. Only the weight of everything she'd lost, not by force, but by choice. The next morning, I finalized everything. The divorce papers had already been signed. I just hadn't sent the final confirmation. I hit submit without flinching. Then I closed the shared storage account, deleted the backup files, changed the last password. I wasn't angry. I wasn't relieved. I was done. I started running again. Real runs, not just metaphorical escapes. I joined a small gym near my new place. Started waking up at 6 a.m. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I reconnected with people I'd neglected. Old friends. My brother. Spent time with my niece. I smiled more. Not performative smiles. Real ones. And I noticed something strange. The world didn't feel heavy anymore. Because I was no longer carrying something that didn't love me back. She texted once more. Weeks later. Just 3 words. Are you happy? I didn't reply. Because happiness isn't a message you send back. It's the life you build after you stop waiting for someone else to understand you. That was the final move. Not the silence. Not the distance. The peace. She's still out there somewhere. Still curating. Still convincing others she was misunderstood. But the truth?